I'm Tom Stemberg. I founded Staples and ran it for about 16 years. And today, I'm the managing partner of the Highland Consumer Fund, which backs emerging consumer businesses. And I'm proud that in those roles, I've created over 100,000 jobs. It's funny when you hear the folks in Washington talk about what it takes to create jobs. And they're talking about, the oil depletion allowances, and you see some of the really big companies in this world, thanks to energy credits, don't pay any taxes at all. And you never hear much about what's going to be done to help small businesses create jobs by creating tax incentives for small and emerging companies. Never seems to get on the agenda. Maybe that's because we don't have a lot of lobbyists and people speaking for us in Washington. I must say I'm deeply concerned about the business environment today. Back when we started Staples in 1985, things weren't easy. But boy, in addition to all the obstacles one faced back then, today, those trying to start a new business, the folks like City Sports here, who we support, face an array of obstacles that we did not have to face, and they're almost all a result of government action or inaction. For example, today, if you want to go public, in addition to going to all the normal checks one has to do and audits and so forth, and filings, you now have to go through becoming Sarbox or Sarbanes-Oxley compliant. And then you have to put in a special evaluation of all your control systems to make sure there's no material deficiencies. This exercise, which is really part of the, not Sarbanes-Oxley, but the Accountant Enrichment Act, costs about $1 million for the average small company. And that's an expense, and there's an ongoing expense of another $500,000 or so each year to stay compliant. Absolutely ridiculous. What's frightening is how much of the challenges that small business face and that emerging companies face come from government. Let me just give you a couple of examples. And these are recent examples of things that passed fairly recently. We've got the Dodd-Frank bill, which came about because a bunch of bankers and investment bankers and other financial institutions played some silly games to earn big bonuses and almost brought down the world economy with them. But instead of regulating them, no, Washington's smarter than that. They put out a new law that applies to every single company in America. And one has to go through and analyze to what extent one's pay practices induce people to take undue risks that creates risk for the financial system. Well, gosh, most of my retailers don't create much risk for the financial system, but we still have to go through that exercise. And in one particular company's case, the management did a phenomenal job analyzing not just the chief executive and the chief financial officer, but everybody down to the store managers and the sales associates in terms of how their pay practices impacted risk in the company. And I said to them, gee, I don't think this is what the SEC had in mind, but this is so thorough, this is great, why don't we just send it in? Thinking we get a pat on the back. No. Instead, we got 2 pages of questions back, wanting detail on each one of the assertions that we made. It's unbelievable. When one thinks about the regulatory environment, one can't get over the national health care bill that recently passed. Think about it. It's one thing to have universal health care, which I think is a laudable goal. Having said that, do we need a bill that legislates that every big box retailer literally has to have a lactation chamber in its store? I know of one big box retailer who read the health care bill, saw that, and called the Department of Health and Human Services to ask them exactly how big the lactation chamber needed to be. They couldn't find anyone who knew the legislation even existed, but they promised to get back in a few months. Isn't this bureaucracy wonderful?